We're going to be simulating the US Civil War, but every 5 years, I'm going to be deleting the weakest nation out of all these guys. So we do have all of them in their little, bubbles, whatever you want to call them. 95% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you want to see more videos like this, which I'll be posting every single day, please subscribe. Everyone is going to have to fight against each other and beat each other, but the weakest nation every 5 years is going to get deleted. So honestly, this is very much going to favor the South because a lot of these northern nations are just immediately going to die. Oregon actually does die right away, so that is not the greatest for the Union side, but all the other territories here, so all of these territories are on their own because technically they kind of were on their own. Like Oklahoma, I did put with the Confederacy because I thought it kind of makes more sense for them to be with the Confederacy, so I did put them there. But we're very closely coming up on the very first deletion of the game, and the weakest nation right now is, of course, the District of Columbia. Wow. Well, they were the, leader of this entire thing, but now they are dead. Rest in peace to them, but it kind of had to happen. Even though they technically aren't a state, I think it kind of makes sense for them to do it here. But it will be kind of interesting to see if any fights happen in the first couple years because, yeah, they are all in one big, huge fighting block. So it's probably just going to be them versus all these territories to start out. So it's going to be really interesting to see if any big fights go down in the first couple of years because they are just such huge blocks here. But either way, we are another 5 years in and it's Rhode Island. So this isn't going to really do anything to hurt the Union necessarily, but it is going to make them lose a lot of their actual nations themselves. And then they just kind of coalesce into some like bigger nations. And the thing is, with any of these, Maryland does go down. Wow. That didn't happen in the actual war, and West Virginia, and it looks like Kentucky. Is Kentucky still alive? Okay, wow. Virginia just kind of went crazy there. Okay, that is really, really interesting. We do have a couple nations dying right away, but we are up to another 5 years, and that's Delaware now. And the thing is, Delaware is on the border. So this is going to be some land going to the Confederacy. So the Confederacy, honestly, would I say they're in a good spot? Oh, New Mexico joined the Confederacy as well. Would I say the Confederacy's in a good spot? No, but they're definitely not in a bad spot either. Like, honestly, I think, if we look at the statistics here, it's probably pretty similar. Yeah, they're very similar size between the two of them. And it seems like the Union is just getting destroyed on every single side, which is very, very interesting. Like Nebraska right now destroying Missouri, Iowa, and Kansas all at the same time. And it looks like Missouri's going to capitulate. No, they don't, but it is getting very, very close for them. So we now have a fight between, there's Missouri going down, so another big loss for the Union. And Virginia is just pushing into everyone's territory. This is going kind of insane. Just Virginia is doing extremely well, and I guess California is also doing solid, but it was very close to getting a capitulation from a ton of these different states here, but we do have another death we have to get rid of, and that's going to be Connecticut, so rest in peace to them. I also just totally missed the time to do Connecticut, but we'll do another death pretty soon. But, of course, Connecticut had to go down. Really, a lot of these early deaths don't really matter because they're kind of all not on the border, but we also have to do another one because I missed it. And New Jersey technically is on the border of the Union and Confederacy, so they go down. But this also makes it a lot easier for the Union to gain new members because here you can add new members. Like all these territories can become friends with the either Union or Confederacy. There you go. Nebraska joins the Union. So it's just really interesting because it all is kind of a developing thing. Nations are going to go down, new nations are going to join, and now we have to get rid of New Hampshire. It seems like basically if you're in the Union, you're kind of cooked, especially if you're in this Northeast corridor, because, look at that. You only have friends in your alliance right around you, and you basically can't gain any new territory unless you take out your opponents, and that's not going to happen. So very much there isn't going to be that many actual battles going on at the very beginning because it really just depends on if the Union fights the Confederacy and vice versa, and then if any of these new territories. And here we go. Vermont, feels bad. You guys are going down. But it looks like Massachusetts and Ohio are the next two up up for grabs. So like Massachusetts definitely looks like they will go down pretty soon. Utah versus Wyoming, that is a very interesting battle. And Wyoming goes down to Colorado. And all these guys could join a team here, but it doesn't look like they are at the moment. And the thing is, Nebraska was doing so well when they were independent, and then they joined the Union, and they're just getting destroyed now. So that's very interesting. And we also have to take out good old Massachusetts at this point. Rest in peace to them. But Ohio is now the next smallest nation, and now we're going to be deleting some pretty huge states at this point. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what goes on in the next couple of years. And once we get down to a lot less nations than this, I'm going to allow them to leave their alliances, because the fact is there's not going to be that much warring if they're just two huge alliances here. And there's North Dakota going down, and now we have to get rid of Ohio. So this is actually a kind of consequential destruction there. I mean, the Union honestly does not look good at all at the moment. They're not really that far behind the Confederacy, but I mean, look, now there's some more land that the Confederacy can take, and just like I feel like the whole territories here, it's really not looked good for the Union at all. And I mean, I wouldn't really say it's looked good for the Confederacy. I feel like the territories, the independents here, have done better than anyone else. And honestly, what I will do is I'm going to allow people to leave the alliances. So they did have to stay in their alliances for a couple years, but now they can leave and they can do their own thing. South Carolina, rest in peace to you guys, but you guys are going to have to leave because you guys were the weakest nation. But yeah, now they can join, they can do whatever, they can leave the alliance. They don't have to stay. But I mean, I'd say it's very unlikely that anyone's going to leave for the time being, just because there's not really a big reason to join or leave. And especially to leave, like, that doesn't really make the most sense. But it will be very interesting. And now, as we have to delete another nation to see, I mean, look, Kentucky is right on the border. So this is more land the Confederacy just eats up. And the Union is just not looking good at the moment. And they probably have some of the smallest nations as well left. So honestly, I'd say, okay, Arizona joins the Union and Oklahoma gets eaten by Kansas. But no one has left so far, which I think is very, very interesting, because I honestly was expecting a lot of people to kind of leave. Iowa, rest in peace to you guys, another Union state going down. Honestly, at this point, I feel like it's pretty unlikely that, I don't know, it's very interesting here, because I wouldn't be surprised if some of these smaller nations do eventually leave, and now we have to take out another nation, and that nation is going to be Louisiana. But I mean, that doesn't really hurt the Confederacy here, because the Confederacy just can eat up all their land. But just in general, I'd say the Confederacy maybe looks a little better. I mean, they haven't really lost any land. The Union's lost some, but the Union's also gained more new members. I mean, look at that right there. They just gained another new member. And it seems like the Union's really been better at diplomacy in a way than the Confederacy has, which, I mean, kind of makes sense in real life, because the Confederacy was never really about diplomacy. It was about states' rights. States' rights to own slaves. And Indiana and Nevada both go down at the same time. So kind of one good thing for the Union and one really bad thing. And the Confederacy is extremely pushing. And we are very close to getting... Okay, so here we go. And then we get to delete the weakest nation, and it's going to be Alabama. Rest in peace to Alabama. I mean, they were looking fine. But yeah, I don't even know. At this point, the Union still is just ahead of the Confederacy, but they're not really doing well in the areas they actually started in. So that's just really kind of a funny thing to me. And Virginia has just been doing extremely well. I feel like they haven't lost any land this entire time, and they've only pushed into other people's land. And now we're actually getting some real battles going, which is very interesting. And now we have to delete another nation, and that nation will be good old Maine. So the Union does kind of survive with that one. Like they're not going to lose any land here. It's just going to be all eaten up by New York, but not really a good thing to lose a nation, even if you get to eat up all the land. But this is very interesting. This battle here between Kansas and Texas is kind of going on for a while, and it does not look good for Kansas. It looks like Kansas may capitulate pretty soon to Arkansas. Arkansas looks also just way better than I would have expected. And Kansas became a puppet state of Arkansas. Okay, that's really interesting because now they're technically on the other team, and now it's time for Illinois to be destroyed because they are the weakest nation. So it just really seems like the Confederacy is on the up and up and up here, but I mean, there still is a lot of places for both sides to expand at this point. And honestly, I'd say still, of course, this is anyone's game. I mean, they have to delete every other nation to get to this point. But I think it's also time to delete another nation, and that nation is going to be Kansas. So even though we did have a little puppet here, they are going to get destroyed as well. And I'd say, yeah, at this point, it really just matters where these 5 new nations that aren't part of either side go, because whatever side they pick, it's going to be the winning side. Okay, here now we do delete Pennsylvania. And now, since we have 20 nations left, I'm going to take a little bit longer to delete the next nation. So it's going to be 15 years instead of 5 years, because just deleting these nations all the time doesn't really help the flow of the game. But this is very interesting because now you have New York is kind of soloed out on that one side. And it seems like the Confederacy is just doing a lot better at this point. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have expected this at the beginning, but yeah, the Union is really just getting destroyed on all angles, which is very interesting to me because I feel like they had the much better beginning start of the game. And I was actually surprised. Like, I would have expected the independents to just immediately die right away, but they've been doing somehow kind of well. I just want to see some attacks going. It's like Washington versus Idaho is our best attack here. I don't know. Very interesting. Colorado versus Montana. Okay, now we've got New York versus Virginia. Virginia is destroying everyone. They are just so strong for no reason. And it looks like they could capitulate Wisconsin too. Oh my God. Virginia has eaten up so many, they've annexed 4 other nations. I mean, I guess that's not crazy amount, but I feel like most other nations haven't done anything. And now it is time to delete a nation, and that nation's going to be Washington. So rest in peace to them. Honestly, I'm going to just let it run for a little bit. We've had a lot of nations dying, and I mean, yeah, we'll just see how it kind of goes here. Arkansas is just somehow also extremely huge for no reason, and we have another new joiner of the good old Union, and it's going to be Idaho. So that is very interesting. I mean, I wouldn't have really expected Idaho to join right away, but it seems like every new nation has joined the Union instead of the Confederacy. And I don't know what happened to New Mexico here, but New Mexico was the only nation to join the Confederacy, and they're not alive anymore. So it seems like everyone else has always joined the Union, and it seems like the Union really is the best place to go if you're a independent nation. But at the same time, the Confederacy seems to be doing, honestly, pretty well at this point. So we're going to see what goes on. Utah just became a puppet of California, so that's pretty interesting in its own right. And we are coming up on time to delete a new nation. So, oh my God, Arkansas, you just got destroyed. South Dakota is becoming one of the strongest nations in the Union, and they never even were in the Union in real life. Utah, you're going to get destroyed. I'm sorry. That's just what happens because you are the weakest nation here. Sucks to suck, but that's how it goes. And again, another fight in Virginia just continues to push. I don't think they've lost land all game. They just continue to push into other people's territory, even though they didn't do that well there. Now it seems like Arkansas is getting destroyed by South Dakota. South Dakota is just doing extremely well for what I would have expected them to do. And at this point, there's only 2 independent nations left, and it does not look good, I'd say, at the moment for the Confederacy. Just really didn't play a good diplomatic game here because they didn't add any of these new territories to the Confederacy. Everyone else joined the Union, which, I mean, it's kind of on them. But now they're just destroying. Wow, South Dakota, you guys were doing so well. And wow, South Dakota was doing so well for so long. And now Virginia has basically just taken all their land here. So I don't know what happened. South Dakota technically still is 6 combat power, but Virginia has been just clearly doing the best. Now the Union has a bunch of land in the west side, but I'd say honestly, there's no way I don't see the Confederacy winning it all at this point. And I think it has come time to delete the weakest nation again, which is going to be Florida. So rest in peace to them, soldier. I mean, they really had nowhere to expand because they were always part of an alliance like that. But we're coming in. Florida is looking good. And it looks like the last independent nation, officially Colorado, is going to go down very soon. Rest in peace, Colorado. So now everyone's either a part of the Union or the Confederacy. And I'd say at this point, when every single piece of land is part of one of the two of them, it's the Confederacy on top. And the Confederacy also looks a lot better in the future because they have a lot bigger of nations. So I'm going back every 10 years. I'm going to delete the weakest nation. So starting off another 2022. We have North Carolina going down. Because now, since everyone's a part of these two nations, it's going to be a lot easier because the fights can only be between the two of them. So it looks like New York is not in a good position. Neither is Arkansas, but I think New York will be the next target here. The Confederacy has just looked insanely good this entire time. Virginia just clearly done extremely well. And it looks like Virginia is going to take out another person. Virginia's had the strongest army this entire game. Like, they've only had 6 combat efficiency this entire time. They've just been pushing and pushing and pushing. And New York, you're also dead. So this is just so weird to me because I would never have expected Virginia to become the world power here. And it looks like they will be. And the thing is, once they take over the Union, I'm going to let them take over the entire world if they want. It's just insane how they've basically kept combat efficiency at 6 this entire game. Okay, finally, South Dakota is making a little push here. It looks like they might take out. No, they didn't take out Minnesota, but it just does not look good at all for the Union at this point. We do have to get rid of Arkansas. And the thing was, I thought Arkansas would die, and we'd be like, oh, the Union got a little bit of land from them. That kind of sucked for the Confederacy, but that's not what's happening. It literally is just Virginia carrying this entire game on their back, and Arizona is now just doing their own thing, and they did join the Union, so that's kind of interesting. Minnesota, you're gone. You were the weakest nation here. We only have 7 nations left at this point. It basically is just Texas and Virginia against the world, and Arizona just got eaten. Look at Virginia. Virginia's all the way over here. They're all the way over here. They're everywhere. And it looks like they might... It's very, very close at the moment between who is going to be the weakest nation. But it looks like it's going to be South Dakota is the loser here. You're done. And there's only 2 Union nations left. And it's California and Idaho. Does that even make sense to you? The 2 Union nations left are California and Idaho. Yes, California was a Union nation technically, or Union state technically, but they didn't really do anything in the actual war. And now it's time to take out another nation, and that one is going to be Georgia. So rest in peace. We only have 4 nations left. And yeah, technically, you could still say the Union is doing fine. I'd say at this moment, I'm just going to let them be, because there's only 4 nations left. It's not really like a crazy battle between these 4. We're just going to speed this up and see what happens. But I will very soon delete the weakest nation, potentially. It's just now we're basically a 1v1 here. It's everyone's fighting against everyone. But this is very interesting because it looks like the Union is pushing a little bit. Virginia has done, honestly, extremely well this entire game. And if they just lose at the end of it because they had a really weak army comparatively, that would not be good. And that would just be kind of funny in its own right. California looks really weak as well. So it really is between... Okay, never mind. Somehow Idaho, I guess they also have 0. Okay, I guess everyone just has 0 gold, so that's kind of part of it. And now Idaho is getting taken back on. it's just really going either way. Honestly, at this point, it is kind of just everyone's in the middle here. I think I'm expecting Virginia to still win here, but again, it could really go either way. Oh, Idaho, looking good. Looking pretty good. I'd say, I would say, like, I want to delete the weakest nation, but I know it's going to set up Texas right now, and I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm picking a side to win. So what I'm going to do is, since Texas and California are so similarly sized, I'm deleting both Texas and California. So I just deleted the two weakest nations, and now it's a 1v1. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Idaho on the... Idaho is going to represent the Union. Let's just rename them. Idaho is the Union. And Virginia is the Confederacy. Because this just makes the most sense. Also, I just need to recolor these guys. They need to be blue. Okay, beautiful. We are on the last two nations. Is it going to be the Union on the left side or the Confederacy on the right side? I don't know. And it looks like Virginia is going to take over the majority of Texas's land, and Idaho is going to take over the majority of California's land. So it kind of ended out right. But it's going to be very interesting to see who wins here, because we deleted all the weakest nations and now there are only two left. Is it going to be the Union winning it all, or is it going to be the Confederacy winning it all? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because it looks kind of like a stalemate here. I'd say, of course, Virginia is in the driver's seat here, but I've seen games where there have been way weirder comebacks, way weirder things happening, and this definitely isn't that weird, like for someone that's just a little bit of an underdog to win with Idaho here. So I don't know. I'm kind of expecting Virginia to do something cool, but it really just seems like it's a stalemate on both sides. Like, literally nothing is happening. Like, wow. Virginia's taking over a little bit of land. Oh no, now Idaho's taking over a little bit of land. Like, just, can we get this thing kind of rolling? I don't know. We will very much see. Virginia seems to continuously be doing better than Idaho is, but I mean, that's just kind of a, yeah, like, okay, it seems like Virginia's going to win here. Like, I would be very surprised if they don't, but I mean, again, I've seen weirder things happen. Okay, now Virginia's taking over a lot of land. I like, can we just get a little fight to the death here? The problem is they just don't have enough. They don't have enough gold to fight to the death. So it's going to be little chunks at a time. Virginia's just starting to roll. They're starting to get bigger and better and stronger and stronger and stronger. And it very much looks like the Confederacy will be winning this all. But again, I've seen some pretty big times where it's gone the other way around. So it does not look good for Idaho. Even though Idaho was not a Union soldier at the beginning, they became the strongest nation in the Union, and they held it down for a while. But it looks like the Confederacy, and the place where the Confederacy really was, in Richmond, Virginia, where the capital of the Confederacy was, is going to be the winner here, which is kind of crazy in its own right, because I don't know, it's just weird that like a battleground state, like where they're actually like fighting in the war, is going to be the one that wins it all for the Confederacy. So that's pretty interesting. But it very much does not look good for the Union at this point. And officially, the Confederacy has taken the Union as a puppet. But I will just try and let it go a little bit to see if anything crazy has happened. But I'd say at this point, the Confederacy has officially beat the Union.